Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu, and I'm back with another Buddyfight deck profile update video. So today I'm going to be updating the Star Dragon World deck of Astrodragons. So for those who don't know, Astrodragons is basically a deck where you want to have a particular formation, and then once you are in that formation, you'll get additional effects based on the formation. So as of Glory Valiant and the sets leading up to Glory Valiant, they definitely got a lot of new and powerful tools that helped reshape the deck a little bit to be more consistent and more powerful than it was before. So going over the new cards first, we have the Indicated Hope Cross Astrologia. So he has a pretty powerful ability where at the start of each player's attack phase, we could call up to 2 Astrodragon monsters from our drop zone into separate areas by paying their call cost. And then he has the Galaxy formation where if we have 3 or more different Astrodragon cards on our field, all Astrodragon cards on our field can't be bounced, can't be destroyed, their souls can't be dropped, and their abilities can't be nullified. So just a lot of different protections all stacked up make it a very, very powerful card and very hard to deal with for the opponent. And then he's got double attack, soul guard, and counterattack. He is just looking to be a great inclusion and probably one of the best crosses to run in your center. Next, we got Proclaim Tactics Divination. So for 1 gauge, we get to choose one of the following 2. We either get to put 2 Astrodragon monsters or items with different names from our drop zone into our hand, or we get the counter option of if an Astrodragon monster is on our field, we get to draw a card, and then we basically get to shuffle the formation of our Astrodragons. The shuffling effect isn't necessarily that big of a deal. It could be important or relevant, but I don't necessarily see it being super, super useful, but it definitely is a powerful option if you can utilize it. But drawing a card is pretty nice, and obviously putting 2 cards from our drop zone into our hand is already pretty good. And then the last card that they got in Buddy Ragnarok is Future Card Buddyfight. So this card's just insane because it can be used with all flags, and it's just a very powerful card. So what it does is you basically get to charge 2 gauge, put this card into the Buddy zone, and then choose one of the following 2 effects. So you could either tutor your Buddy out, or if your opponent is at 5 life or less, you could tutor an Impact out. And then at the start of the attack phase, if this card is in the Buddy zone, for this turn, your Buddy monster on the field gets +2 crit. It's just a very, very powerful card because it can help set up for a whole bunch of crazy scenarios. Next, from Buddy Again Volume 3, we get Eternal Rival. So this card's just absolutely insane. We get to basically drop 2 monsters from our deck and draw a card. And then if we have an original size 3 monster on our field, that card gets plus 10,000 power and +1 crit, and then we can only activate this once per turn. So obviously with the 2 new direct support cards that they got, they obviously want to have cards in the drop zone, and this just is a facilitator to that engine. And then from Buddy Again Volume 2, we get Grace of the Sun Deity. So Grace of the Sun Deity is just Grace of the Sun Deity. It's just an insane card. Protecting us from burn is pretty good, or making it so that one of our cards can't be destroyed or leave the field, and its souls can't be dropped or returned to the deck is just, again, another very, very powerful effect. So, and then the rest of the deck really isn't doing anything different than what it was doing in Ultimate Unite. It's just trying to utilize the new cards to make the deck more powerful and more consistent. So we're still going to be running Godcross Astrologia because this card's just insane. He has the Galaxy formation GD, where if you have a monster in your left, all cards on your field get counterattack and plus 10,000 defense. If you have a monster on your right, they get penetrate and plus 10,000 power. And then if you have an item equipped, all cards on your field can't be rested by your opponent's card effects, and they get +1 crit. Obviously, these effects do stack, and stacking them make your board very, very powerful and hard to deal with. And then the only other cross that we're going to be running is Star Guidance Cross Astrologia. He's kind of basically like the new cross, except a little bit different. So at the beginning of each player's attack phase, we get to call up to 1 size 1 Astrodragon from our drop zone without paying its call cost. So we get 1 monster that's size 1 for free, which is pretty nice. And then his galaxy formation is if you have an Astordragon in your center and left, and you have an Astordragon item equipped, all cards on your field can't be destroyed by the opponent's card effects. So just the redundancy doesn't necessarily matter a whole lot. It's just a nice thing to have just to ensure that the opponent can't be able to interact with your cards very much. Next we have Stardragon Fret. So this is just the Garcat clone of the deck. So he's just gaining you some gauge and drawing you some cards. Seer Dragon Tink is just another Garcat clone of the deck, just gaining you some gauge and drawing you some cards, but he does have the added benefit of being able to gain us some life. So we can play around with his effect based on the different options that he has and different ways we could call him. Next we have Guardseer Dragon Gyron Magna. So he is the size 3 of our deck. He obviously reduces himself to size 0 to fit on the board, but he is our attack redirector if he's on the left or right. So he is just very, very good. Next we have Starfight Dragon Coupe. So Coupe is just another Garcat clone where he's just gaining us a whole bunch of different resources. But the powerful thing about him is we could countercall him, and at the beginning of each player's final phase, if he's on our field, we could bounce him back to our hand. So he has a little bit of different utility there. And then the last monster we're going to be running is Stardragon Grey. So all this card does is either tutor out or retrieve a Astrodragon set spell, and our set spell is pretty important to the deck, and I'll get into that why in just a moment, but all he's in here for is just grabbing our set spell. As far as the item of the deck, we're just going to be running Everseer Bow Caelum Rex. So this is just probably one of the best Astrodragon items, where it could attack through the center. All Astrodragon monsters on our field can't be destroyed or bounced, so just even more protection, just for insurance. And then if an Astrodragon is on your left or right, this card gets +1 crit, and it has double attack and Soul Guard. So it's just a very solid item. Next, on to the spells. We're going to run Formation Selector. So this is the key set spell of the deck, where part of its call cost is putting a card from our hand or drop zone into its soul. And then it has a pretty powerful counteract ability, where we get to choose a monster with cross in its name on our center, and for the turn, it gets the Galaxy Formation or Galaxy Formation GD of the card in its soul to that cross, and then we can only use it once per turn. So obviously the idea is to have Godcross set in Formation Selector, then have Indicated Hope on our field, and have Formation Selector give Godcross's ability to Indicated Hope. So it's just a very, very powerful card. Next, I'm running Tesla Adversity. So this is just another card to act as some extra protection, where all of our Astrodragon cards on the field can't be destroyed and can't leave the field by the opponent's card effects. So in case we can't find Grace, this is just a good backup, but this also has the added benefit of allowing us to shuffle our drop zone back into our deck. So that's just pretty good, considering we do have a tendency to draw engage a lot, so being able to have a resetter is very solid. Next, I'm running Elegance of the Celestial. So for 2 life, we basically get to tutor out a Astrodragon with cross and an item from our deck and add it to our hand. So obviously, being able to tutor out any of our crosses is pretty good, so it doesn't necessarily have to be the Buddy one, but it's just very solid, and it also tutors out the item. Next, I'm running Notify Immobilization Tactics. So for 1 gauge, we get to rest an opponent's monster on the field, and then the chosen monster can't stand. So even if we might not be able to rest it, and the monster has multiple attacks, still being able to lock it down with the second part of its effect is still very, very powerful. Next, I'm running Star Believer, just for some card draw. Next, I'm running Celesphere Control, again, just for some card draw. Next, I'm running Edict to Divination, again, just for some more card draw. And then lastly, I'm running Lost World because it's Lost World. So as far as other cards you could run in the deck, there's just a whole bunch of different cards that you could possibly run and really shape the deck on how you want to shape it. And there's just a ton of different options. So one of the other new options that they got is Astordragon Ordinary. So basically this is just your restander during the final phase, and they all can attack during the final phase. So he's just that on a monster. Future Palette is basically a pretty good soul buff card that also allows us to draw a card and acts as a replacement to Grace of the Sun Deity or a good complement to Grace of the Sun Deity. Legendary Kickoff is just a pretty solid card because it allows our cross to basically pick off the opponent's field, or we could stand the item for an additional attack. For the future is just some more gauge gaining and a bit of hand fixing. Iris Lilac is another really good card just to gain some more resources. Celesphere Force is just a good defense spell. We could run Cross Irisness Astrologia because it's just another decent cross monster that we could run for the set spell. We could run Proclaim Deceive Point just as another way to draw some cards and act as some extra protection. We could run Proclaim Steer of the Stars just again as a digger to help find our Astrodragon monsters or item, and it gains us some gauge on top of that. We could run Proclaim Battle Supplies just as another resource engine card. We could run Notify Emergency Tactics as a way to countercall some of our monsters. We could run Cross Intersect because of its different utilities. Obviously, the big one is going to be resting 2 cards on the opponent's board. We could run Phase Seal Chain as just an attack phase ender. We could run Prism Guardian as another defense spell in case our board just manages to get completely obliterated. We could run Shining Rain as a good spell null, Buddy Block as just another emergency defense button. Then we could run Loyalty because it's loyalty. Just being able to stop the opponent from calling too much is a very powerful thing in the current state of the game. And then there's just even more options that you could run. This is just a few just to highlight how powerful and diverse the deck could be. But as far as your Lost deck, there's definitely an interesting interaction that you get between Lost Cross Astrologia and Lost Knight Glintlance, where Glintlance, his Oppress ability, takes the opponent's left and right, and those count as your left and right. So you get an additional left and right on top of the fact that you're going to have your own left and right to play with. So that only makes Lost Cross's ability even more powerful. So that's kind of it for the deck. It's definitely looking to be very, very powerful and have a whole bunch of different variations based on how you really want to play it. But this is what I feel is a pretty solid base to work off of, just because of the sheer amount of utility that the deck has. That's kind of it for this video. As always, I'll have the deck list in the description below. Feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions about the deck or just want to leave a comment in general. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content, and I will see you in the next video.